You can tell when someone's frame of reference for normal people is more people at the church-sponsored ice cream social and less people on the bus. The people in the notes saying people on the bus aren't normal are the people this post is talking about. I took the bus for 3 years when I lived in Honolulu and haven't lived anywhere with even usable public transit since. But in those 3 years, I had dozens of utterly bizarre experiences that were also perfectly normal. This is because the human condition is vast and also very fucking weird. The term and concept of rent-lowering gunshots is seeped into my mental vocabulary, and I've welcomed it there. Something I'm up to is gross and weird. Good, keeps the rent low. Keeps judgy people out. Post weird shit on your blog. Do weird shit to your hair. Be as funky as your heart ever wants to be. If you're not the one making the profit, make yourself unprofitable. The aposematism of brightly colored creatures is there to warn predators, not friends. You have no moral obligation to make yourself palatable for those who would consume you. School recently banned phones, and these are the questions students ask. Am I permitted to use smoke signals to communicate? Could I use a carrier pigeon to send messages? Would I be permitted to use a SCR 578 500 kilohertz radio transmitted to send messages in Morse code during the school day? Will banning cell phones cause Verizon's stock price to drop? Would you recommend divesting from the company before the ban goes into effect? Let's say I am caught with my cell phone during 6th period, and so I'm required to surrender the phone at the start of the following day. If I go home and replace every single component in the phone with a replacement, is this still the same cell phone? How does the school plan to address this Grecian philosophical dilemma? The kids are alright. Had to ban the phrase tricky from my classroom during Watergate lesson because saying the word in front of 30 15-year-olds is like lighting a bomb and throwing it through the doorway. But now they're just calling him Richard the Treacherous like they're all medieval peasants. Gonna lose it. My baby keeps scare maxing himself. My 13-month-old has his touch-activated book filled with animals and their respective sounds. He flips through all the pages until he finds the anaconda, which makes a rattlesnake hissing sound. He presses it over and over until he cries and needs me to comfort him because he's scared of it. He does this multiple times a day, every day. I don't understand why. Are all animals dangerous? Every animal has the potential to be dangerous under certain circumstances. For instance, a dog could bite you, a moth could distract a UPS driver into plowing through your living room window. You could inhale and choke on an earthworm. Did Lemony Snicket write this? People say that the Spaniel is a gentle breed of dog, and yet when accelerated out of this railgun at 2,500 meters per second directly towards this group of orphans, whimsy is truly a wretched term. What maketh thee so carefree? Thy mother. Art thou for fucking real? My best friend is dead. You? We killed them. Even the crew that voted against it. You legitimized it. Made it okay for us to commit murder because we did it by the book. Is quite possibly the hardest line in all of fiction, and of course it's from the Among Us show. I took my girlfriend to an improv show the other night, and during intermission, we were passionately arguing over whether half a 5-hour energy shot would give you 2.5 hours of energy or 5 hours of half energy. So we turned around to ask the opinions of the 3 people behind us, and one of them said, "Are all your arguments like this because we heard you in the lobby earlier fighting over the right way to pronounce egg?" New K-pop groups are all like 12-member rookie boy group ASDFGH420 released their first teaser poster for their second mini-album, Alone in My Dreams, Freudian Analysis of My Soul, Chapter 1, featuring the title track, Boom Boom. Let's say I really wanted to reduce the number of children who die in car accidents. Car accidents are really bad, right? Nobody disagrees about that. And it would be much better for both the environment and the kids' health if they spent more time walking or taking the bus. Perfectly reasonable. More cars off the road, safer roads, fewer kids getting hurt, healthier kids. A win-win. Therefore, let's ban children from traveling by car and require all cars to have a scanner on the door that scans the government ID of everyone who gets in a car to make sure no kids are in there. After all, kids get hurt in car accidents all the time. We need to ban this right away. My husband has some disturbing requests for after he's passed away. This one is really bizarre, and I'm sorry ahead of time. My husband of 12 years has had some medical problems recently. The topic about end-of-life plans came up, and I asked if he wanted to be buried. He didn't want that, nor did he want to be cremated. My husband wants me to have his skull taken from his body and cleaned. Then he wants the skull put on the mantelpiece in the living room. The rest of his body he wants sent to one of those places that makes the gems out of bodies and made into 2 blue diamonds. He then wants those gems to be put in the eye socket of the skull to look like eyes. Then he can watch the family home and be passed down through the generations. King, I'm imagining a world where RPG makers somehow made it as the de facto codebase for software, and you have to navigate your banking app by walking around in a huge room full of NPCs named Make Deposit and Make Withdrawal, etc. And there's loud as stock music playing. This is what Metaverse was supposed to be. The Defunctland video was great and all, but the bit that's sticking with me is when they talked about how it would covertly get children interested in fish a whole year before any Finding Nemo advertising so the film would be more popular. And he went, "That's pretty sinister actually." And she just said, "Yeah, you are not immune to propaganda." So in English class, we had to draw a scene from The Great Gatsby. After the drawings were done, the teacher was showing them to the class. And one drawing was a pic of Gatsby reaching towards at the green light. But in the drawing, Gatsby didn't have hands. So my teacher starts saying something like how this picture has hidden meaning and portrays the helplessness Gatsby feels. So my teacher starts saying something like how this picture has hidden meaning and portrays the helplessness Gatsby feels. And the kid next to me just casually says, I can't draw hands. This is honestly how symbolism works in English. Today I learned the Bible contains a passage where it says it became dark in daytime during the crucifixion of Jesus. It was discovered a total eclipse did actually occur in Jerusalem on November 24th, 29 CE at around 11 a.m. This fact got dismissed by the church because the date is not in accordance with Easter. Historians, we found out the actual date Jesus was crucified. Catholic Church, how dare you question our appropriation of pagan holidays? Okay, but could you imagine being a Roman, nailing up some dude who's like, I'm the son of God, bruh, and then the fucking sun goes black? Guys, fun fact. The term nightwing in policing refers to the time period where a rookie officer is cleared to patrol at night alone. And guys, what's even more fun is that Dick changed his name to Nightwing after he left Batman. When officers get their Nightwings, they no longer need a trainer with them. Dick deeming himself Nightwing is basically him saying, I no longer need Batman. This is the most appropriate superhero name. Do you think elves get annoyed by continental drift? Like they have extremely long lifespans, if not outright immortal? Do you think it's fucking annoying to have to update maps every few thousand years because the continents moved a little bit to the left? Now I have the mental image of an elf just finishing a map and a guy walks in and says, oh yeah, that's over there now. And the elf just shreds the map, procrastinated for too long, and now the westernmost continents have formed a land bridge between the two land masses. My toddler's daycare apparently uses the cleanup song. My husband and I discovered this yesterday when we started singing it, and it activated our kid like she was a sleeper agent, and she immediately started putting her toys away. If you are referring to clean up, everybody everywhere, clean up, everybody do their share, then I'll have you know that remembering the song and having it play in my head made me clean up a section of my workspace, and I am 27. So the sleeper agent codes go in deep. An insult to practically everybody with any point of view at all. One of the most beautiful sentences possible with the English language. Nothing could have prepared me for the context. The original candidate for DC Comics' first headlining black superhero was a character called the Black Bomber, a white racist who would turn into a black superhero under stress. Comics historian Don Markstein later described the character as an insult to practically everybody with any point of view at all. Elf TV, exclusively 300 season long soap operas. Dwarf TV, how it's mined followed by a 4.5-hour documentary about salt. Gnome TV, those sensory videos for cats where bugs and mice and birds crawl around the screen. They really like this. Orc TV, Mythbusters and Top Gear reruns. Halfling TV, the most incredible impassioned storytelling you've ever witnessed, always neatly contained in 2 seasons max. Fairy TV, imagine impractical jokers except they're capable of stealing people's faces. This is the only show that fairies have. What if your doppelganger loved being you more than you ever loved being yourself? They're better at being you and everyone loves them, and it feels almost selfish to want your life back. I want clone horror, but the horror is that the thing trying to replace you is also the person you always wanted to be, and it is imperative that it ends with killing the better version of yourself with your bare hands, by the way. This fucking comment, I just choked. When the doctor asked me if I was sexually active, and when I said no, she said, okay, you don't look like the type. Please wet your hair or something. I love you and you do seem like a pleasant person, but you really do look like someone dropped a lollipop onto the carpet. I'm so sorry. Oftentimes when you look back on media you enjoyed as a child, it's like, hello, why did they let a 14-year-old fight a dragon? But Star Wars holds up. Luke is 19. His reaction to losing his whole family is to say, alright, let's do this. I'm gonna learn to meditate and hire a sexy drug dealer and his friend who's a furry to be my Uber across the galaxy so I can blow up a fascist government. That's something only a 19-year-old would do. If Light just said he was gay and swapped out the mags for gay mags, he would have gotten away with everything. I believe that with my entire being. Why does he have so much to hide? Gay, next question. Why does he act so strange around Elle sometimes? Gay, next question. Why is he so perfect and meticulous? Gay, next question. That's how Hannibal got away with it. The kid next door, talking toddler age, is playing outside and just wiped out in his Fisher-Price car. And I just heard the babysitter say, oh no, your insurance premium is definitely going to go up. And the kid, who had only been mildly sniffling before, made the most confused but startled sound you've ever heard. Just very clearly an attempt at saying, my what? He straight up forgot about his scraped knee and is now worried about whatever the fucking insurance premium is. Caving as an extreme sport is so unfathomable to me. Why are you as a creature of the daylight doing that? Were you born without the dread in your bones or something? I used to teach spelunking to 9-year-olds. It's so fun, trust me. The power of a good cave nap. Like tight corner, cold mud, you get knocked out and feel like you slept 8 hours and 15 minutes. The time dilation of being in a cave is the unsettling part. You are in there for what feels like 15 minutes and it's been 6 hours. Come 9-year-olds, let us sleep in the hell fissures where time goes to suffocate. The first rule of Star Wars Aliens is that every alien you see on screen is the absolutely most representative member of their species. That spy alien is from a species that makes espionage their calling. That bounty hunter alien is from a species whose single planet-wide religion encourages the tracking of sentient beings. That dumb henchman alien is from an entire species of dumb henchmen. That drug addict alien, guess what? Their entire species has a natural tendency to get addicted to drugs. I never fell for the notion that piracy is theft, because where I grew up, the only DVD shop in town just had one box of each movie for display, and when you brought it to the front, the dude would just burn a pirated copy of it right in front of you and no one ever cared, and it was awesome. A couple of months ago when I was 100%ing Luigi's Mansion 3, I was doing a lot of multiplayer mansion games trying to get the rare ghosts, and after one of these sessions, I got a friend request from one of the people I played randomly with. Anyway, his name is Luigi, his profile pic is Luigi, and his library consists solely of Luigi games, and I've never seen him play anything else, so I just have to assume Luigi himself is my friend on Switch. Me and my cousin have an ongoing bit where we pretend we made slightly better versions of things, where we'll be like, that was a pretty good movie, but not as good as my movie, House of 1001 Corpses. Or, I guess this song is okay, kinda reminds me of a song I'm working on called Faster Car. Never once has it been funny or made anyone but us laugh. This reminds me of a joke I have with two of my cousins. A girl's voice in game chat is more powerful than any US Marine. Fun story, maybe. When I was younger, my brother was super duper into COD and he's actually really freaking good at it. So one day, he gave me his mic headset and told me to talk while he was playing, and it was wild. The levels of salt that young men produce when under the impression that a little girl is destroying them in COD is a beautiful thing. Stardew Valley dev is too protective of their IP to give away its movie rights, unless Studio Ghibli is interested. Concerned Ape knows what's up. Hey, this is fucking great, but you left out the best god part. There's an exception to this rule, however, and it comes in the form of My Neighbor Totoro filmmaker Studio Ghibli or Twin Peaks creator David Lynch. If Studio Ghibli approached me, I would probably say, okay, let's do it. For own jokes, if David Lynch approached me and wanted to make a Stardew Valley movie, I would say go ahead, just do it. Stardew Valley's wholesome vibes would make it the perfect Studio Ghibli movie, although David Lynch's take on the farming sim will probably be quite different. David Lynch is the other exception, and I am f***ing living for it. The concept of spyware has disappeared from the common internet lingo, after it became the case that the word could now be used to describe nearly every major website and a huge percentage of the most commonly used software. Now it's only spyware if it's made in Russia or China. Otherwise, it's just sparkling espionage. Yesterday, my 16-year-old little bro collapses, breathing stops, gets diagnosed with a heart problem. Please see his first entry into the siblings chat while admitted into the hospital on the same day. Imagine dying. Couldn't be me. Be me. Many years ago, I got food poisoning from a Domino's pizza. Have been screwing with that store ever since. Ordering pizzas to random addresses, leave bad reviews, get into screaming matches with the manager over the phone. It's to the point where I can just say it's me and it will turn into a screaming match immediately. They blocked my phone number, so usually I just spoof it. Sometimes I mail weird things to the restaurant's address, like toys and glitter bombs. One time in the middle of the night, I went out there and I put a bike lock on their door. I'm not even mad anymore, so I don't know why I do this. Recently, I found out that the store will be closing. I feel like I won, but I'm stressed out what happens after the Domino's pizza is gone. What does a soldier do when there's no more war to fight? I'm high as f*** at medieval times and trying so hard to look normal. My friend pointed at a QR code and went, "What is the meaning of this rune?" And I almost threw up trying not to laugh. Friends were doing a bit where they boo the king and queen because they're anti-monarchists, and I got legit nervous, like, guys, they're like right there, we're gonna get beheaded. And when the servers showed us to sell glowy swords and stuff, I sank into my seat like, oh my god, guys, I told you. They kept doing very immersive jeering like dishonorable and let them taste your steel. And I started being like, guys, this is so f***ed up. This is people's lives. The modern American mind couldn't comprehend a walkable town. This doesn't feel walkable when it's 3 p.m. and you're trying to get from the mines to the blacksmith before 4. What is the number of missing fingers that becomes a deal breaker? So I was discussing with a friend. Let's say you were on a first date and you see they're missing a finger. Certainly not a deal breaker. But if they had no fingers, that probably would be a deal breaker. So where's the line for you? Big Bang Theory is awful for obvious reasons, but honestly, shout out to them for inventing Bazinga. So I have a word I can drop into any conversation for a one-hit kill. Bazinga and Every Pony are the closest we will get to real-world dragon shouts. Unrelenting Frenzy. Hello, Every Pony and Bazinga causes all creatures within a 100-meter radius to enter into a frenzied state for 10 minutes. 6-7 is the new Among Us. We all agree it's not funny anymore, but its unintentional presence is everywhere in the world. And so every time we see it appear somewhere, we experience a neuron activation moment. This was prompted by my math class's consistent sighing as one of the homework answers was 6.7. Hate when the subway leaves right in front of you. The worst. For a sec, I just imagined a whole sandwich restaurant sprouting legs and leaving before I realized you meant the train. I had to draw this. Subway. Thank you for your efforts, everyone. This is a fabulous post. Why did you use Weiss in this? I have electrocuted myself 5 times in a row. My arm is killing me. However, they always say, 6 times the charm. Wish me luck, Mo. I have to go to the hospital. Genuinely so obsessed with this Twitter post. Freshman year of high school, I was sitting in Latin class and a guy threw a lockpick at the back of my head. I picked it up, decided I might as well learn to pick locks, and went home that night to begin an obsessive interest in Harry Houdini. This is an origin story for a robber, that's what it is. What tragic series of events set you upon a life of crime? Some kid threw a lockpick at the back of my head and I thought, when life gives you lemons. That's it? Alright, I'm gonna launch explosives around your house for several hours. Yes, it is dangerous and terrible for wildlife and the environment. And yes, your pets will get sick from eating the debris and you will feel terrorized inside your own home. No, you can't opt out of it. Everyone is doing it and frankly, it's weird that you don't want to. No, you can't be the one launching the explosives. You need a license for that. You can, however, launch these marginally smaller ones though. Yeah, just whenever you want. 2 a.m. sounds great. So anyway, fireworks were a mistake and it's never too early to start reminding you of that. Been selling spells on Etsy lately. $50 a pop and I just send the customer a photo of a burnt candle. Thank you, mentally ill women. To all the lamers and haters out there, I only offer shitty spells like for making people break up, lose job or money, get sick, etc. So all my customers deserve to get scammed. I am a moneymancer and my only real spell is summon dollar. The funniest part of Death Note was when Light thought, the police are spying on me through cameras in my room. I need them to think I'm a normal high school boy. And then he proceeded to read a magazine for 5 minutes without cranking his chain, all while laying on his bed like this. While playing Roller Coaster Tycoon one time, I remember that I was tasked with the mission of getting a higher approval rating than the park next door. Rather than make my park better, I instead built a roller coaster that launched people at 100 miles per hour into my rival's park. Since technically those people died in my rival's park, their approval rating would plummet and people would rush to my park and straight onto my death coaster, which only caused their rating to drop lower and lower. I did this for an hour until the game said I'd won. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I can never be given any modicum of power ever. When my dad was in college, he had a friend who told a girl he'd take her on a date unlike any other she'd ever been on. And so he took her to the supermarket to watch the lobsters fighting in the lobster tank. They're married now. Love. Something about Toy Story toys is so strange to me. Versions of animated characters based on real-world toys turned back into toys that are slightly different than the actual toys. Slinky Dog with a rubber spiral instead of a classic metal Slinky. The porcelain Bo Peep and cloth Woody turned into jointed plastic action figures. When Toy Story 4 came out and I saw the $30 talking action figure of Forky, a character made out of a spork and a pipe cleaner, I stood in the Walmart toy aisle staring at it like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off staring at that painting in the art museum. When the AI bubble pops, the demand for computing power will fall much more quickly than the supply. For a brief window, we will have an amazing digital surplus. My dad PayPals me $20 every exam season for Red Bull and Snickers because he swears by a trick he used to do in college where he would chug a Red Bull and eat a Snickers in the exam hall before every single one of his exams, and he did well on all of them. Legitimately swears to this day that it works and makes me do it. The first time I tried it, I also knocked that exam out of the park. It would take 2 more years for either of us to figure out that we both had low blood pressure, and what all that caffeine and sugar was making us experience was known as normal blood pressure, allowing us to concentrate better. My dad still swears that it was the Red Bull and Snickers and not the medical equivalent of using the wrong equation and getting the right answer. My friend's little brother, nonverbal, used to hide people's shoes if you liked the person because it meant they had to stay longer. The more difficult it was to find your shoes, the more he liked you. One day my cousin came over and she was a bitch. When it was time to leave, my friend's brother handed her shoes directly to her, and she went on and on about how he must have a crush on her because he only helped her. Aw, aren't you sweet? You got me my shoes. Get off my property. Coding got me saying shit like target the child, assign its class, override its inheritance. Like the third wife of a dying oil baron discovering his of-age son born out of wedlock. OS Internals books are wild. Having children. Watching your children die. Running new programs. A bit of history. Killing yourself. Killing others. Dumping core. I was drunk as hell when I designed my Cash App card. What is this, bro? You just won the game. By reading this, you have automatically won the game. The fact that you thought about the game when reading this does not matter. You can think about it all you want. You still won. The game has ended for you. Congratulations. Thank you. I've been waiting for this for about 5 years. What am I going to do now? You can die happily. The blood oath is fulfilled. I am free. The most powerful punctuation mark in existence. The demicolon connects an independent clause to another independent clause, a dependent clause, an adverb, a picture of a bear, the planet Neptune, some buttons, your mother, etc. I have this weird theory that some people are drawn to each other because their atoms were near each other when the universe was created, and over time and the same atoms keep coming back together. Did you just scientifically explain soulmates? Oh my god, this is one of the best things I have ever read. Remember that 3 items from the store to make the cashier most uncomfortable meme? Apparently, I accidentally found a winning combo tonight at the corner store. One of the usual clerks shot me a really weird look when I was checking out with these. Poor man's beach vacation. If you don't think JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is the most batshit insane story of all time, then you're wrong. I'm at the point where the half-velociraptor reincarnation of a 100-year-old psychic British vampire is investigating a 14-year-old girl who is trying to rip Jesus' heart out of the President of the United States body by seducing his lesbian wife. For the record, everything about this sentence is pretty much true. Evil info dumping where you just tell lies. TikTok. 5-minute crafts. Resume. Aeroplane makes extremely low landing at Greece airport. Pilot of 60 years experience here. Typically all landings are extremely low. I tried to do one really high up once, but it didn't work. In bed eating cold ravioli and notice that the right side of my door is a bit bigger than the left. These are the people I have to share a highway with. People should be buried vertically. Hear me out. Think of all the space we would save. I'm talking about doubling, possibly tripling the amount of dead people room in cemeteries. If capitalism isn't what sells you, think of the environment. Edit. For Christians, when the rapture comes, you're already in missile silo mode to bust out of there. Lethal Company is like the opposite of whatever Among Us did to friend groups. If you want to see which of your friends is really good at lying and betrayal, you play Among Us. And if you want to see who you'd crush a group project with, you play Lethal Company. Hero? Dark. I'm literally out here getting dissed on by some Arab dagger merchant right now. Not interested. He who has not tasted grapes says sour. If I was trapped inside a room filled with explosives and the only way out was to eat a whole tomato, I would die. How the heck do you even get in that situation? Montclair teen's quick thinking saves her and niece from home invasion suspect. Mom, I'm gonna call 911. He's inside, Mom. He's gonna hear me. K, you call her, come home or something, Mom. Mom, I'm baby. Her mom really hit her with K. My son plays Minecraft next to me while I play Apex. Whenever I win, I unmute my mic and get my son to say good job, guys. I find it hilarious that they think a tiny kid got a bunch of kills and helped them win. Wholesome. This here is true family bonding. So Mayor Lewis composes the entirety of visible government in Stardew Valley, has not faced an election challenger in 20 years, and often goes into stores to personally collect their business taxes. I'm not saying that Pelican Town is controlled by the mafia, but it's sure controlled by something. One of my neighbors mailed me a bomb today, so I'm gonna stop talking about Mayor Lewis, who I love and respect. Has anyone ever actually seen a shareholder, or are we just supposed to believe they actually exist? I did once when I was working in a coffee shop. He was on a business call loudly talking about some tech speculation. When I asked him how it went a few days later, he panicked and asked how I knew such sensitive information. From this, I gather they were of weak constitution and startle easily. You were given $1 million to hide a paperclip from a detective. He has 7 days to find it. Where are you hiding it? Or just show it to him cause then he didn't find it. I know from context that your sister's dog did this, but it's a bad look for a guest room. One of my classic texts from the archives. I set out a suitcase to pack for my flight later today and spotted my 3-year-old crawling inside it to hide. I casually zipped it up, yelled, "I'm off to the airport, everybody," and carried it to the car. I've circled the block twice and my luggage hasn't stopped laughing. The kid will cherish this for their whole life if they remember it. I don't care. I'm not spending $70. I used to play Rivals of Aether on an exposed motherboard and the physical damage it dealt made me play harder. Your Zoom profile picture. Hello, Sophia. Danganronpa is not tolerated for school guidelines on any circumstances. Danganronpa is forbidden at school, meaning Nagito Komaida is not allowed. Please change your Zoom profile picture and your school email profile picture. Nagito is forbidden. Thank you. Dude, your school has a D&I list. I'm screaming. How I start sleeping versus how I end up. Why do I end up sitting straight up in my sleep? Ignore how many blankets I use. Bestie, it is impossible to ignore the amount of blankets you use. At first, I assumed this was a meme and those were the layers of the crust of the earth. I actually have 4 more blankets I sometimes add, but I didn't want to make my blanket number look excessive. Are you okay? The results are inconclusive on that. I'm obsessed with the world of Donkey Kong, where the barrel is an abstracted, functionless object that seems to just manifest in the wild. I never thought of this. Like initially, Donkey Kong was throwing barrels because he was using whatever was around at the construction site he was doing his kidnapping at, right? Then we get a glimpse of his home terrain and it turns out barrels are like embedded in his realm as an omnipresent, pluripotent part of nature. My cat has started to use vacuum as a curse word. Basically the title. I gave him a vacuum button because a vacuum is stressful for him and I wanted to be able to clearly communicate that the vacuum was going to happen and let him know vacuum all done. He definitely knows what it means because when the vacuum is running, he will push vacuum repeatedly and also add nervous in there too. But now he has started spamming vacuum after I tell him no. Like he is using it as a curse word. For example, he will ask for snacky when we just got done with snacky and I will say snacky all done. And then he will go spam the vacuum button. Yeah, okay, bud. I hear you loud and clear that you feel vacuum about snacky all done. Or he snuck a lick from the end of my spicy curry dish. I did not not authorize this. I looked away for 1 second. I could tell he regretted this. Spicy. And then he went and pressed snacky vacuum. Yeah, okay, bud. That snacky made your mouth feel vacuum. I don't know what I'm asking, really. Just commiserating. I guess maybe he needs a mad button. Kids today are like, so what did y'all do before the internet? Did you just not know anything? And the answer is yes. You would ask your Aunt Marge a question, she'd give you the wrong answer, and you carry that misinformation for 20 years. When I was a kid in Chengdu, China, there's a public phone number you could call to ask about general stuff, like train schedule, the weather, phone numbers to businesses, etc. I thought I could ask them anything, so I once called the number and asked, do pineapples grow on trees or the ground? And the operator, after a moment of silence, said, go ask your mom, and hung up. Customers started yelling at me because I was 1 minute late to open the shop, so I banned them from shopping with us and locked the door on them. Play stupid games. This man had the audacity to come back at the end of the day as I was closing up by the fucking way, ranting and raving about how he had been mistreated and that no one had even bothered to reply to his complaint email all day. Well, I had the unbridled joy of informing him that not only had I seen his email, which was insanely abusive towards me for the crime of being 1 minute late and not putting up with his shit first thing in the morning, but that I was also the manager who he demanded to speak to. And I now also had our IT team block his IP address from being able to contact us or order with us ever again. I should have been allowed to castrate the man, but this will have to do. Okay, this got way more notes than I was expecting, so I feel like I should add some important context here. I'm not management. I'm not even middle management. I'm just some guy that works here. I don't have the authority to do any of this. I just like lying to customers. Blind bisexual goose named Thomas, who spent 6 years in a love triangle with 2 swans and helped raise 68 babies, dies at the ripe old age of 40. He's a bit much. RIP to the legend. This goose fucking rocks and had a crazy life. I really just have to summarize Thomas's entire life. He was in a committed relationship with a male swan named Henry for 18 to 24 years before a female swan named Henrietta showed up and mated with Henry. Thomas was initially jealous of the pair and attacked them, breaking 2 of the 5 eggs Henrietta had laid. However, once the remaining eggs hatched, Thomas warmed up to them and helped raise them. Henry couldn't fly because of an injured wing, so Thomas taught the cygnets how to fly. When they needed to reduce the goose population in the pond where Thomas and the swans lived, they dyed Thomas's feathers red so he wouldn't be separated from Henry. Henrietta, and Thomas remained in their happy throuple for years and raised 68 cygnets before Henry died in 2009. After Henry's death, Henrietta found another swan and flew away, leaving Thomas alone. Thomas finally met and mated with a female goose in 2011 and had his own babies. However, another goose named George stole them and raised them himself. As Thomas grew elderly and blind, he was relocated to a wildlife center where he raised orphan cygnets. His caretaker at the center described him as pretty high maintenance. Thomas died in 2018 at the age of around 40. He had a funeral that included a small coffin and a procession that was led by a bagpiper. He was buried under the stone where Henry was buried. The two finally reunited in death. This is the software equivalent of a message smeared on the walls in blood. Dear programmer, when I wrote this code, only God and I knew how it worked. Now, only God knows it. Therefore, if you are trying to optimize this routine and it fails, most surely, please increase this counter as a warning for the next person. Total hours wasted here, 254. Welcome to my blog. This sign looks like it's walking towards me. I feel threatened. I just watched an old couple get into their car and set off the alarm and then try to turn it off for like 10 minutes before giving up and driving away with the alarm still going off. Now that I think about it, maybe I just watched an old couple steal a car. A live-action Persona series is in the works at Netflix. Christopher Monfett will serve as showrunner. The showrunner is the guy behind this, by the way. When I was a freshman, our RA's name was Hunter, but he was vegan, so we ended up nicknaming him Gatherer, and I still haven't gotten over that. During high school, some of us German students went on this exchange trip to Europe. One of the kids in our group was named Miles, and so we decided to call him Kilometers while we were staying in Europe. Be me. Apply for light bulb assembly line job. No college. Just 2 fast food jobs on resume. Get to interview. Job is actually to run the whole light bulb factory. Only the HR person at interview. Other person had an emergency. HR person is showing me around. Obviously has no idea how anything works. I just start making up names for machines and processes. A couple employees say what they're doing, so I vaguely know what's happening. Interview ends. Told I'm a top candidate. When light bulbs start burning down houses, you'll know I got the job. Every time I log on, I have to look at this absolute abomination one of my friends built. It has skulk sensors inside it, so it screams at you if you get too close. And it has a conduit under it that makes it sound like it has a heartbeat. I hate it so much. I saw this in a fever dream. Imagine body slamming someone in Waffle House and crashing through the floor to the toy aisle like Redneck Tekken. A tick that makes you allergic to meat is spreading. A single bite can reprogram your immune system. The vegans have launched their first attack. It's such a sadness to me that kids eventually lose that no filter thing when they grow up. My niece asked what 9/11 is, and someone explained it to her, and her unfiltered conclusion was, bro, is that it? I know this is dumb, but I think that Australia exists. Like, the ocean is largely unexplored. There could very well be a fallen empire and we haven't found it yet. Make-A-Wish Foundation. If I ever had godlike powers over the nature of animals, I'd just make crabs smarter, like on par with crows or something. You'll walk out onto the pier at night and see a group of crabs working together to drag an unconscious man into the water. You can't help him now. He's gone. You can tell I'm 30-something because I bought a new brand of toothbrushes and I'm very pleased with them. Toothbrushes generally have the same problem that tennis shoes, for instance, have, in that they're over-designed and consequentially garish and ugly. But this is literally just a single piece of plastic, all one color with a logo printed on it and white bristles. Very tasteful. It's perfect. I sound like fucking Patrick Bateman. I told a guy his total was 1321 and he said, wish it were that year. Could actually get some good music on the radio. Breaking news from the AP. Our boys on the front have just sacked Constantinople. Take that, heretics. Coming up next are the soothing lute dirges of Bing Crosby. You lost. Hey, I'm Peak. Go, my Michael Spears. Stop sending them. Imagine uploading one YouTube video 9 years ago and still generating 2 million plus views a month. This is why I call it digital real estate. The #1 rule of burger photography is the closer you are to the burger, the worse it looks. Extrapolating, the most appetizing burger is the one you cannot the implied burger, the burger of your mind. A friend just told me that he and his siblings used to play a game called Abraham Lincoln and the Slimy Slug, wherein one person is Abraham Lincoln with a full range of motion and one person is a slimy slug inside a sleeping bag, and they would fight, and of course Abraham Lincoln would just beat the absolute shit out of the slimy slug. Nice to see Google pull out all the stops for 9/11. Here you go, Jim, you wee fucking idiot. The inventor of Vaseline was so convinced of its healing powers that he ate a spoonful every day and had himself covered in it when he got sick. He lived in 96. Big Pharma's worst nightmare was just a grease-up guy from the 1800s. The Russian guy I hired through TaskRabbit to help me move is telling me all of the things that are wrong with my diet that are making me so weak. The Russian guy my property manager sent to fix my shower's water temp asked my boyfriend if the girlfriend wanted the water hotter. I wasn't home. Boyfriend said yes. Russian guy replied, the women, they prepare for hell. Our new community just hit the market in Zanesville, Ohio. Each house has 20 plus parking spots for boats, RVs, ATVs, and all their cousins to stay over. I'm gonna throw up. I am the same color as Lunchables ham. This is actually pretty interesting because it's made of people. Hashtag Lunchables is made of people. Restart life. $5 billion. Tell customers they're idiots without getting in trouble. If you had $5 billion, you could hop from job to job calling entitled customers idiots all across your city, putting the fear of you into every shithead in town until people become afraid to be rude to servers and cashiers, lest you emerge from the back room like some kind of manners enforcing specter. Pixar movies are getting ever more fantastic and fanciful. First it was what if toys had feelings, then what if cars had feelings, followed by what if feelings had feelings. But they're really stretching the public's ability of suspending disbelief with what if band directors had feelings. I forgot to feed my friend's cat and it starved to death. How much legal trouble am I in? I, 37 male, was supposed to be looking after my friend's cat while she is away, but I got totally caught up at work and forgot all about him. Lunch was supposed to be at 12 p.m., but I didn't arrive until 12:02 and the poor guy had died of starvation. I've tried to revive him with tuna, but he insists he is dead. Am I going to jail? When I'm a doctor doing a surgery, right before the person goes out under the anesthesia, I'm going to say, okay, pull up the WikiHow article. Are you Satan? Tech billionaire Mike Lynch is missing after $18 million yacht sank off Italian coast. Our annual tradition of sacrificing billionaires to appease Poseidon is going well, I see.